Undercover boss saw waitress wrap burritos at 3 a.m., then caught employees covering up a scam. The grease-stained apron felt foreign against Ethan's chest. For 15 years, he'd worn tailored suits worth more than most people's monthly rent. Now, at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, he stood in the cramped kitchen of Burrito Blaze location number 47, pretending he didn't own the entire chain. "You're the new guy?" A middle-aged man with tired eyes and a manager's badge that read, Rick, looked him up and down. "Ever worked food service before?" "Some. In college," the lie came easily. Ethan had actually built his empire from a single food truck, but that was a lifetime ago. Before the investors, the board meetings, the quarterly reports that showed location number 47 bleeding money for 8 straight months. "College," Rick snorted. "Great. Another one who thinks he's too good for honest work. Listen, Marcus." He used Ethan's fake name like a weapon. "We close at midnight. Officially. You mop, you clean, you prep for morning shift. That's it. Don't ask questions, don't touch the register, and we'll get along fine." Something in Rick's tone made Ethan's instincts flare. He'd conducted 3 undercover visits before, always at flagship locations, always during day shifts. But number 47 was different. Money vanished here like water through a sieve. Inventory reports made no sense. And 2 employees had quit in the last month without giving notice. "Got it," Ethan said, reaching for a mop. "Not yet," Rick grabbed his arm, surprisingly strong. "First you watch. Learn the system." The restaurant was empty. Chairs stacked on tables. Lights dimmed. Through the front windows, the street lay dark and deserted. Ethan had chosen the roughest neighborhood location deliberately. If something criminal was happening, it would be here. 10 minutes passed in silence. Then Ethan heard it, 3 sharp knocks on the back door. Rick's entire demeanor changed. He straightened, checked his watch, then nodded to someone in the kitchen. "Mia! Back door!" A young woman emerged from the storage room, moving fast. She couldn't have been more than 25, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and shadows under her eyes that spoke of too many late shifts. She didn't look at Ethan as she hurried past. Through the kitchen window, Ethan watched her unlock the back door. 3 men entered, construction workers, maybe, or warehouse employees. Their clothes were dirty, their faces exhausted. One carried a wad of cash. "Usual?" Mia asked quietly. The man nodded. "For steak, 2 chicken. Extra hot sauce." Ethan's mind raced. The restaurant was closed. Nothing was being logged. And Mia was already moving, pulling ingredients from the line with practiced efficiency. "Marcus!" Rick's voice made him jump. "Mop the dining room. Don't stop until I tell you." It was a dismissal. A clear signal to stay away from whatever was happening in the kitchen. But Ethan had spent 15 years reading people, understanding power dynamics, spotting the gaps where money disappeared. He picked up the mop and started working, but positioned himself where he could see through the kitchen doorway. Mia moved like a machine. Her hands wrapped burritos at impossible speed, each one perfect, each one identical. No measurements, no hesitation. The kind of muscle memory that came from doing the same task hundreds of times. Rick stood at the back door, collecting cash. No register. No receipt. Just bills disappearing into his pocket. 15 minutes later, the men left through the back door with their food. The lock clicked. Silence returned. "Good," Rick said to Mia. "Clean up. Fast." She nodded, still not speaking, and began wiping down surfaces that were already spotless. Ethan noticed her hands were shaking. Another hour passed. Then, at 4:30 a.m., 3 more knocks. This time, 5 people entered. Then, at 5 a.m., 7 more. Each group knew exactly what to do: knock 3 times, wait, enter through the back, pay cash, leave. The rhythm was mechanical, rehearsed. Ethan's business mind calculated automatically. If this happened every night, 5 or 6 groups, 6 to 8 burritos per group, at $10 each. Rick was pocketing somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per week. Unreported. Untaxed. Pure profit siphoned from Ethan's company. But something felt wrong. Rick had the swagger of a small-time criminal, sure. But Mia? She wrapped those burritos with the desperate efficiency of someone under threat. And she never touched the money. Never spoke unless spoken to. Never looked anyone in the eye. At 6 a.m., as gray light started creeping through the windows, Rick finally dismissed them both. Mia, you're on again tomorrow night. Marcus, you too. Same time, he pulled out a thin envelope and handed it to Ethan. Cash. Off the books. You good with that? Every instinct screamed to refuse. But Ethan nodded, taking the money. Yeah. I'm good. Rick smiled, cold, predatory. Thought you might be. You got that look. Like you need money and don't ask questions. He leaned closer. Keep it that way. As Ethan walked to his car, a beat-up Honda he'd borrowed from his personal assistant, he counted the cash. $200 for 6 hours of work. Under minimum wage, even before considering the illegal nature of the operation. He sat in the driver's seat, exhaustion pulling at him, and watched the restaurant. At 6:15, Mia emerged from the back door. She didn't walk to the parking lot. Instead, she headed down the street on foot, her pace quick, her shoulders hunched against the morning chill. Ethan had discovered plenty tonight. Theft, tax evasion, labor violations. Enough to shut down location number 47 and send Rick to prison. But something in Mia's posture, that bone-deep exhaustion, that mechanical compliance, told him this story went deeper than one corrupt manager skimming profits. He started the car and made a decision. Tomorrow night he'd come back. Not as a CEO gathering evidence for termination, but as someone who needed to understand exactly who was being hurt, and how badly. Because in 15 years of running Burrito Blaze, Ethan had learned one crucial truth: the numbers never told the whole story. Sometimes you had to get your hands dirty to find out what was really happening in the dark. Ethan arrived at 11 p.m. the next night, 2 hours before his shift. He'd spent the day doing something he hadn't done in years: actual detective work. His executive assistant had pulled employee files discreetly. Mia Rodriguez. 2 years at location number 47. Perfect attendance. 0 complaints. And a brother listed as her emergency contact, Jamie Rodriguez, also employed at the same location, day prep position. Interesting. The parking lot was empty except for Rick's truck and a battered bicycle chained to the rack. Ethan waited in his car, watching. At 11:47, Mia arrived on foot again, moving quickly through the shadows. She unlocked the front door with her own key and disappeared inside. Ethan gave her 10 minutes, then followed. The restaurant was dimly lit, just the kitchen lights on. He found Mia in the storage room, counting inventory with a small notepad. Her lips moved silently as she wrote numbers, checked them, wrote again. Hey, Ethan said softly. She jumped, dropping the notepad. You're early. Couldn't sleep. He bent to pick up her notepad, catching a glimpse of her notes before she snatched it back. Column after column of numbers: beans, rice, tortillas, meat. Inventory check? It's none of your business. Her voice was sharp, defensive. Sorry. Just making conversation. Ethan raised his hands, backing off. But he'd seen enough. Those numbers were personal counts, not official inventory. She was tracking something Rick didn't know about. Rick arrived at midnight exactly, his keys jangling. Marcus! You're eager. Good. Means you need the money. He tossed Ethan a rag. Deep clean the grill. Mia, prep the line. They worked in silence until the first knock came at 1:30 a.m. 3 knocks, then 4 people entered. Mia moved to the line immediately, and Ethan watched from his position by the grill. Tonight, he noticed details he'd missed before. The way Mia's right hand trembled slightly as she rapped. A fresh bruise on her wrist, purple-yellow, the shape suggesting she'd been grabbed hard. The way she flinched when Rick walked past. After the customers left, Ethan drifted closer to the line. You're really fast at that. Practice. Mia didn't look up, already preparing for the next group. How long have you been doing the night shift? Long enough. Must be exhausting. This and a day job. I don't have a day job. The words came out bitter. This is it. Before Ethan could respond, Rick emerged from his office, a spreadsheet in hand. He slammed it on the counter next to Mia. Explain this. We're short $87 in ingredient costs from last week. Mia's face went pale. I don't know. Maybe the morning crew. The morning crew doesn't run my operation. Rick's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're in charge of the night counts. You telling me you can't do simple math? I can, Just what? Rick leaned closer. Just decided to skim? Just thought I wouldn't notice? I didn't take anything. Mia's voice cracked. I swear, I logged everything correctly. Rick grabbed her wrist, the bruised one, and squeezed. Mia gasped, tears springing to her eyes. You're already on thin ice. Keep making mistakes, and your brother is out. No job, no insurance. How's Jamie gonna afford his medications then? The threat landed like a physical blow. Mia's face crumpled, but she nodded quickly. I'll recount everything. I'll find the error. You do that. Rick released her and turned to Ethan. Something to add, Marcus? Ethan kept his expression neutral, every muscle screaming to intervene. No, sir. Good. Get back to work. The rest of the night was torture. 2 more groups came through, 11 burritos total, all cash, none logged. Ethan watched Mia work with new eyes. She wasn't just fast, she was desperate. Each burrito wrapped perfectly because perfection was survival. Each movement economical because wasted motion meant wasted time, and wasted time meant Rick's attention. At 4 a.m., during a rare quiet moment, Mia's hand slipped. The hot sauce bottle tipped, and instinctively, she grabbed it, pressing her palm against the grill's edge in the process. The sound she made was small, strangled. She jerked her hand back, and Ethan saw the burn immediately, red and angry across her palm. Let me help, he said, reaching for the first aid kit. No! Mia pulled away, cradling her hand. I'm fine. You're burned. I said I'm fine. She wrapped her hand in a damp towel, her face twisted in pain, and kept working. Because stopping wasn't an option. Because Rick was watching from his office. Because somewhere in this equation was a brother who needed insurance, needed medication, needed his job. Ethan returned to his cleaning, but his mind was racing. He'd uncovered the scam, cash transactions, skimmed profits, coerced labor. But he'd also uncovered something worse, a system designed to exploit the vulnerable, to turn their desperation into compliance. And Mia wasn't the criminal here. She was the victim. Ethan didn't go home after his shift ended. Instead, he sat in his car across the street, engine off, watching the back door. At 6:30 a.m., Mia emerged, still cradling her burned hand. She walked east, away from the parking lot, into a neighborhood Ethan's corporate reports listed as high risk, declining property values. He followed on foot, keeping a block behind. The houses grew smaller, more rundown. Chain-link fences sagged. Some windows were boarded up. Mia walked with her head down, exhaustion in every step, until she reached a small yellow house with peeling paint and a wheelchair ramp leading to the front door. She climbed the steps, not the ramp, and went inside. Ethan waited across the street, hidden behind a parked van. 30 minutes later, the front door opened again. A young man emerged in a wheelchair, mid-20s, with the same dark hair as Mia. Jamie. He navigated the ramp carefully, then rolled down the sidewalk toward the restaurant. Ethan checked his watch. 7:15 a.m. The day's shift started at 7. Jamie was heading to work. A plan formed quickly. Ethan jogged back to his car, drove to a coffee shop, and changed in the bathroom, traded his work clothes for the casual button-down and jeans he kept in his gym bag. Then he returned to location number 47, parking out front like a customer. The restaurant was open now, morning light streaming through windows. A different energy entirely, an older woman at the register, a teenager manning the grill, and in the back, visible through the kitchen window, Jamie Rodriguez prepping vegetables. Ethan walked in and ordered a breakfast burrito. While he waited, he watched Jamie work steadily, his wheelchair positioned at a modified low counter. His knife work was precise, professional. Tomatoes, onions, peppers, all diced uniformly. No wasted motion. The same efficiency Mia had, but without the fear. "Excuse me," Ethan said to the woman at the register. "That guy in the back, Jamie? He's really skilled. How long has he worked here?" The woman, whose name tag read Patricia, smiled. "Almost 2 years now. Best prep cook we've got. Never misses a day, never complains. His sister works nights. Lucky to have both of them." Patricia's smile faded slightly. "Lucky for them to have jobs, you mean? Not many places will hire." She trailed off, seeming to catch herself. "Hire what?" "Never mind. Not my business." She handed him his burrito. "Have a good day." Ethan ate slowly, thinking. Jamie was talented, reliable, valuable. But in Rick's hands, that value became leverage. The job wasn't a benefit, it was a chain. He was about to leave when he heard voices rising in the kitchen. "I need to talk to him." Jamie's voice, urgent. No, Mia had appeared through the back door, still wearing her night shift clothes, her burned hand now wrapped in gauze. "Jamie, please. Just do your work. He's asking questions about inventory. About the night shift. Mia, if he finds out. He won't find out anything because there's nothing to find out." Mia's voice was fierce, desperate. "You have 4 more months until your insurance covers the new medication. 4 months. We can't risk this. But what Rick is making you do is keeping you alive." The words burst out of Mia like a dam breaking. Several customers glanced over. She lowered her voice, but Ethan could still hear. "I don't care what it costs me. I don't care if I never sleep again. You need this job, you need the insurance, and if that means I wrap illegal burritos until my hands bleed, then that's what I do." Jamie's face crumpled. "This isn't fair to you. Fair doesn't matter." "You matter," Mia touched his shoulder gently. "Now please don't talk to the new guy. Don't ask questions. Just keep your head down. Promise me." After a long moment, Jamie nodded. Mia turned and nearly ran straight into Ethan, who had moved closer without thinking. Her eyes went wide. "What are you? Were you listening?" "I just came in for breakfast." Ethan kept his voice casual, non-threatening. "Everything okay?" "Fine." Mia's walls slammed back up. "Everything's fine. You should go." "Your hand, did you get that burn treated?" "I said you should go." There was real fear in her eyes now. Not of Ethan, but of what might happen if Rick learned they'd spoken outside of work. Ethan left, but his mind was spinning. The pieces were coming together, ugly and clear. Rick had found the perfect victims, a sister desperate to protect her disabled brother, a brother whose medical needs made him dependent on employer insurance. Leverage wrapped in necessity, exploitation disguised as opportunity. And the scam went beyond simple theft. This was systematic coercion, turning Mia's love for her brother into a weapon against them both. As Ethan drove away, he knew one thing with certainty: shutting down the operation wasn't enough. He needed to dismantle it in a way that protected Mia and Jamie, not destroyed them. But time was running out. And tonight, he'd have to go back and pretend he'd seen nothing at all. The third night started differently. Ethan arrived to find Rick pacing in the parking lot, phone pressed to his ear, his voice sharp with irritation. "I don't care what your usual timeline is. I need the capacity doubled by Friday." "Yes, doubled. You'll get paid, just make it happen." He ended the call and spotted Ethan. "You're early again." Figured I'd. "Good. I like reliability." Rick unlocked the door, and something in his energy felt manic, rushed. "Big week coming up. Real big. You do exactly what I tell you, keep your mouth shut, And there's a bonus in it for you. Inside, Mia was already at the prep station, but she looked worse than before. Her burned hand was still bandaged, and new dark circles shadowed her eyes. When she saw Ethan, she immediately looked away. Mia, I need triple output tonight, Rick announced. I've got 7 groups confirmed, maybe 9. Her head snapped up. 9? Rick, I can't. You can and you will. He pulled out his phone, showing her something that made her face go ashen. Unless you want me to make a call to HR about Jamie's performance issues, I've got documentation ready. 1 word from me, and he's terminated for cause. No severance, no insurance continuation. It was a bluff. Ethan knew employment law well enough to spot fabricated documentation, but Mia didn't know that. She just nodded, defeated. Good girl. Rick disappeared into his office. Ethan moved to the storage room, pretending to organize supplies while his mind raced. Doubled output meant doubled profits, but also doubled risk. What was Rick planning? At 12:30 a.m., his phone buzzed with an encrypted message from his executive assistant. Board meeting Friday. They're voting on closing location number 47. Majority already decided. Your vote is the tiebreaker. 3 days. He had 3 days to gather ironclad evidence before his own board shut this place down, and destroyed Jamie's insurance with it. The first knock came at 1 a.m. But this time, when the door opened, Ethan saw something new. The men who entered weren't tired workers anymore. They were different, harder eyes, calculating looks. One had a radio on his belt. Another carried what looked like restaurant delivery bags. You're expanding, one of them said to Rick. It wasn't a question. Got the product. Just need reliable distribution. Product. Distribution. The words made Ethan's blood run cold. This wasn't just about selling burritos after hours anymore. The man nodded. We'll take 20 tonight. Test the route. If it works, we'll go to 50 per night. 20 burritos. 50 per night. Ethan did the math. That wasn't individual customers anymore. That was wholesale, organized distribution. Rick wasn't just skimming profits. He built an entire shadow supply chain. Mia worked frantically, her burned hand clearly causing pain with every wrap. Ethan moved closer, pretending to clean nearby surfaces, and noticed something else. Rick's office door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, he could see a laptop screen showing a spreadsheet. He edged closer during a moment when Rick was handling the exchange at the back door. The spreadsheet was labeled Payroll August, but the names listed didn't match any faces Ethan had seen. Maria Gonzalez, David Kim, Robert Matthews. 12 names total, each with hours logged, wages calculated. Ghost employees. Rick was manufacturing payroll records, claiming the company was paying 12 people who didn't exist, and pocketing their wages. Between that and the after-hours sales, he was stealing somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000 monthly. Marcus! Rick's voice cut through his thoughts. What are you doing? Ethan's heart hammered, but he kept his face neutral. Thought I heard your printer running. Wasn't sure if you needed help with something. Rick's eyes narrowed. The printer's off. Get back to the dining room. Sure thing. As Ethan walked away, he felt Rick's stare boring into his back. He'd been made, not completely, but enough to raise suspicion. The rest of the night was tense. Groups kept coming, each one larger than the last. By 4 a.m., Mia had wrapped 37 burritos, and her hand was bleeding through the bandage. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. During a brief moment when Rick stepped outside to take a call, Mia grabbed Ethan's arm. Her grip was weak, trembling. Don't ask questions, she whispered urgently. People get hurt. Real hurt. Last guy who got curious ended up in the hospital. Rick has connections you don't understand. What kind of connections? The kind that make people disappear. She released him, fear stark in her eyes. Please. Just do your job and leave. But as Rick came back inside, Ethan noticed something that made his stomach drop. Rick's phone screen was visible for just a second, showing a text conversation. Someone's watching. Need to handle it. The response came immediately. How permanent. Rick glanced at Ethan, his expression unreadable. And Ethan realized his cover might not just be at risk of being blown, his safety was too. Ethan's executive assistant called at 9 a.m., 3 hours after his shift ended. He was still awake, mind too wired to sleep. We have a problem, Jennifer said without preamble. The board moved the meeting up. Tomorrow at noon. They want location number 47 closed immediately. They're citing safety concerns and financial losses. Ethan, if they vote before you present evidence, everyone gets terminated. Today. Ethan sat up straight. How many on the termination list? 14 employees, but the first batch goes out at 2 p.m. Mia Rodriguez is on it. So is her brother. His blood ran cold. On what grounds? Performance issues, allegedly. Someone sent HR a file yesterday claiming Mia's been stealing inventory and Jamie's been consistently late. It's all fabricated, but it looks official enough that HR has to act. Rick had prepared his exit strategy. If the location closed, he'd make sure Mia and Jamie took the fall, eliminating the witnesses who knew too much. Jennifer, I need you to do 3 things. First, delay those termination notices, any excuse you can find. Second, get me a forensic audit team, but keep it quiet. Third, he paused, making a decision that went against every legal instinct. Get me a recording device. Something small. Ethan, that's illegal without consent in a 2-party state. I know. Do it anyway. He hung up and stared at his phone. 12 hours until the board meeting. One more shift tonight to gather undeniable proof. No room for mistakes. At 11 p.m., Ethan arrived to find the parking lot filled with unfamiliar vehicles. Through the restaurant windows, he could see Rick talking with 3 men in expensive suits, not the usual late-night crowd. One was taking photos of the kitchen. Another was measuring spaces with a laser device. Ethan's corporate instincts kicked in immediately. Those weren't customers. They were investors, or buyers, evaluating the space for acquisition. Rick was planning to steal the location itself. He walked in casually. Rick's face tightened when he saw him. Marcus. Come here. The suited men studied Ethan with cool, calculating eyes as he approached. This is one of my night crew, Rick said smoothly. Marcus, these gentlemen are interested in potentially leasing the space. You know anything about the building's capabilities? Storage capacity? It was a test. Rick was checking if Ethan would play along or ask questions. Storage is pretty extensive, Ethan said carefully. Walk-in freezer, dry goods room. Probably 3 times what a normal restaurant this size would need. One of the men nodded, making a note. Good. We'll need high capacity. For what? Ethan wanted to ask, but Rick's warning glare kept him quiet. The men left 20 minutes later, and Rick immediately locked the front door behind them, flipping the sign to closed. Then he turned to Ethan and Mia, who had just emerged from the storage room. Tonight's different, Rick announced. We're going full capacity. I've got 12 groups coming through. Mia, you're going to need help. He pointed at Ethan. Marcus, you're on the line with her. Follow her lead exactly. 12 groups. That would mean at least 70 or 80 burritos. Impossible for one person, even with help. Mia looked like she might collapse. Rick, I can't train someone in one night. Then you'd better work fast. He stepped closer to her, his voice dropping to something venomous. Because I just got a very interesting call from corporate. Apparently, someone's been asking questions about this location. Someone's been reviewing our files. And if I find out you've been talking to anyone at all, your brother won't just lose his job. Understand? Mia nodded, tears threatening. Rick's phone buzzed. He checked it and smiled coldly. First group's arriving early. Get ready. As he walked away, Mia turned to Ethan, and for the first time, he saw not just fear but desperation bordering on panic. Can you actually do this? Wrap burritos fast? I'll manage. Ethan positioned himself at the prep station. His hands hadn't made a burrito in 15 years, but muscle memory was a strange thing. We have to be fast, Mia whispered. If we slow down, if we make mistakes, Rick will. She couldn't finish the sentence. The first knock came. 3 sharp raps. Rick opened the door, and 8 people crowded in, the largest group yet. 40 burritos. 20 steak, 20 chicken. You've got 30 minutes. 40 burritos in 30 minutes. Ethan's mind calculated automatically. 45 seconds per burrito, no mistakes, no breaks. Mia's hands were already moving. Ethan followed, slower but steady. But as Rick counted the cash and checked his phone, Ethan saw the screen clearly this time. A text message, problem solved. He won't be asking questions after tonight. And Rick was looking directly at him. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Ethan's hand slipped, and a burrito fell apart on the counter. Careful, Marcus, Rick said softly. Wouldn't want you to have an accident. The second group arrived at 1:30 a.m., 15 people, demanding 60 burritos. Ethan's hands moved mechanically, wrap after wrap, but his mind was racing through escape plans. Rick hadn't left his position by the back door once, blocking the only unlocked exit. Mia was fading. Her bandaged hand left small blood spots on the wrappers she had to throw away and remake. Twice she swayed on her feet, catching herself on the counter. Take a break, Ethan whispered during a brief gap. Can't. Her voice was hollow. Rick's watching. He's always watching. At 2:47 a.m., Rick's phone rang. He answered, his expression darkening with each passing second. What do you mean someone accessed the system? No, I deleted those files. Check again. He hung up and immediately opened his laptop in the office, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Ethan's pulse quickened. Jennifer must have started the audit remotely, probing the digital records. But it also meant Rick now knew someone was investigating. Mia! Rick's voice cracked like a whip. Get in here. Now. She wiped her hands and walked into the office, her body language screaming fear. Ethan edged closer, pretending to organize supplies near the office door. Someone's been in the payroll system, Rick said, his voice deadly quiet. Someone's been looking at employee records, inventory logs, everything. And the only people with access to those files besides me are you and Patricia. I haven't touched anything, I swear. Then explain this. Rick spun his laptop around, showing a screen of access logs. These timestamps, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You're the only one here during those hours. I don't even know the password. Rick, please, I would never. Liar! Rick stood so fast his chair crashed backward. You've been documenting everything, haven't you? Those little notes you think I don't see. Those inventory counts. I was just trying to make sure the numbers were right. Mia backed against the wall. You kept saying things didn't add up. I thought if I tracked it myself. You thought you'd gather evidence. Rick pulled out his phone. One call. That's all it takes. One call and Jamie's termination goes through tonight. And I've got friends in the medical billing department. Would be a shame if his insurance paperwork got lost before his coverage could continue. Mia's face went white. No. Please. He has a specialist appointment Friday. He needs. Then you tell me who's been snooping. Rick grabbed her arm, shaking her. Corporate doesn't just randomly audit locations. Someone tipped them off. Was it you? Did you talk to someone? I didn't. I swear on Jamie's life, I didn't. Ethan's hand instinctively went to his pocket, where the recording device Jennifer had delivered was capturing everything. He had enough now: assault, coercion, blackmail. Enough to bury Rick. But not enough to save Mia if Rick made that call. He stepped into the doorway. Hey, Rick? The next group's here. Rick released Mia and spun toward him, eyes wild. How long have you been standing there? Just got here. Doors knocking. For a long moment, Rick stared at him, suspicion and rage warring on his face. Then he pointed at Mia. This conversation isn't over. Get back to work. Both of you. Mia fled the office, and Ethan saw tears streaming down her face. But there was no time for comfort. 7 people were entering through the back door, and Rick was watching both of them like a predator deciding which prey to take down first. They worked in suffocating silence. Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket, probably Jennifer with an update, but he couldn't check it. Every movement felt scrutinized. At 4:15 a.m., the back door opened without a knock. Jamie rolled in, his face panicked. Mia! I got a notification. There's a termination letter in my employee portal. It says effective immediately. Jamie, no! Mia rushed toward him. You can't be here. What's going on? The letter says performance violations, but I've never been written up, never been late. His eyes found Rick, then Ethan, and understanding dawned. This is about the night shift, isn't it? About whatever he's making you do. Jamie, please just go home. No! Jamie's voice rose. I'm not letting him threaten you anymore. I don't care about the insurance. I don't care about the job. I care. Mia's voice broke. Your medication costs $8,000 a month without insurance. How do you think we'd afford that? There are other jobs. Not for me. The truth burst out of her like a wound opening. I have a record, Jamie. Shoplifting when I was 17, stupid and desperate. This is the only place that hired me. If I lose this, if Rick blacklists me, no restaurant in the city will touch me. Rick's smile was cruel. Finally, some honesty. Jamie's eyes moved between his sister and Rick, then landed on Ethan with sudden, sharp focus. His expression changed, recognition, confusion, then shock. Wait, Jamie said slowly. Marcus? That's not... You're not Marcus. He pulled out his phone, fingers shaking as he searched something. Then he held up the screen, a news article from 3 months ago, showing Ethan at a charity event. You're Ethan Cole. You're the CEO. The room froze. Rick's hand went to his pocket. Mia gasped. And Ethan knew his cover, and his chance at a controlled resolution, had just shattered. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Then Rick lunged for the back door. Stop him! Ethan shouted, but Rick was faster, slamming through the exit into the alley. Ethan chased after him, emerging into the pre-dawn darkness just in time to see Rick sprinting toward his truck. But Rick hadn't counted on Jennifer's thoroughness. 2 men in dark suits stepped from behind the dumpster, blocking his path. Rick skidded to a halt, spun around, and found Ethan behind him. It's over, Rick. Ethan held up his phone, the recording app still running. Every word. Every threat. All of it. Rick's face twisted with rage. You think you're smart? You have no idea who you're dealing with. That recording's inadmissible, illegal wiretapping in a 2-party consent state. Any lawyer will get it thrown out. You're right, Ethan said calmly. But I don't need it for court. I need it for the board meeting in 8 hours. And unlike a criminal trial, corporate decisions don't require legal admissibility. Just cause. Behind them, more figures emerged from an unmarked van. Jennifer stepped out, followed by 2 forensic accountants and a police detective Ethan recognized from a charity board they both served on. Rick backed against his truck, trapped. This is entrapment. Illegal search. We have a warrant, the detective said, holding up papers. Anonymous tip came in 2 days ago about labor violations and tax evasion. We've been watching the location since then. Those encrypted cameras you didn't know about? They're ours. We have footage of every illegal transaction for the past 48 hours. Rick's face went from red to pale. I want a lawyer. You'll get one. The detective nodded to his officers, who moved forward with handcuffs. Ethan turned back toward the restaurant, where Mia stood in the doorway, Jamie beside her. Both looked shell-shocked. Mr. Cole. Mia's voice trembled. I didn't know. I swear I had no idea you were. I know, Ethan approached slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Mia, how much did Rick tell you about the operation? Nothing. He just said customers were coming after hours, and I had to feed them. Cash only. He said it was a gray area, technically legal because the kitchen was operational. Her words tumbled out fast. I knew it felt wrong, but Jamie needed the insurance, and Rick said if I didn't cooperate, he threatened your brother. I heard. Ethan glanced at Jennifer, who was already typing on her tablet. And the inventory counts you were keeping? Mia's eyes widened. You knew about those? I saw your notebook that first night. You were tracking discrepancies, trying to figure out where the numbers didn't match up. Ethan pulled out his own phone, showing her photos he'd taken of Rick's ghost employee spreadsheet. You were documenting evidence of his theft, even if you didn't fully realize it. I thought I was going crazy. Mia whispered. The numbers never made sense. Food disappeared, but sales didn't reflect it. I thought maybe I was just bad at math. Jamie wheeled closer, his expression a mix of awe and confusion. Mr. Cole, why did you come here? Why go undercover instead of just... I don't know, sending auditors? Because auditors find financial crimes. They don't find this. Ethan gestured to Mia's bandaged hand, to Jamie's wheelchair, to the exhaustion carved into both their faces. They don't find the human cost. The coercion. The way Rick weaponized your vulnerability against you. Police were emerging from the restaurant now, carrying boxes of evidence, Rick's laptop, cash boxes, ledgers. One officer held up a burner phone. Detective, you're going to want to see the messages on this. Looks like he was coordinating with 3 other managers at different locations. The detective's eyebrows rose. This goes beyond one restaurant. Apparently. Ethan's jaw tightened. 3 other locations. How many other employees were being threatened? How many other families torn apart? A uniformed officer approached Mia cautiously. Ma'am, I need to ask you some questions about. Mia swayed suddenly, her legs buckling. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground, feeling how light she was, how her bones felt too prominent through her shirt. When did you last eat? He asked quietly. Yesterday morning, I think. Maybe the day before. Her eyes struggled to focus. I'm sorry, I just need to. Jamie, when did she last sleep? Ethan asked. Jamie's face filled with guilt. She works here midnight to 6, then stays awake to make sure I get to work safely at 7. Then she tries to sleep, but the neighborhood's loud, and she worries. His voice cracked. She's been running on maybe 2 hours a day for months. Ethan looked at Jennifer. Call an ambulance. No! Mia tried to stand, panic flooding her features. I can't afford the medical bills. It's covered. All of it. Ethan helped her sit on the back step. Mia, you're not fired. Neither is Jamie. Your brother's insurance continues, and you're both getting paid leave while we sort this out. Mia stared at him, tears spilling over. Why? Why would you help us? I participated in. Under duress. Coercion isn't consent. Ethan's voice was firm. Rick exploited you. That's not your crime, it's his. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. As paramedics checked Mia's vitals, dangerously low blood pressure, severe dehydration, second-degree burns on her hand that should have been treated days ago, Ethan stood beside Jamie. Your sister's a fighter, he said quietly. Jamie nodded, tears on his face. She's the strongest person I know. And I let her destroy herself for me. No. Rick did this. Not you. As dawn broke over the parking lot, police led Rick away in handcuffs. He shot Ethan one last venomous look. You think you've won? Rick called out. This is just one location. The system's bigger than me. Bigger than you. Ethan met his gaze steadily. Then I'll dismantle the whole system. One location at a time. 3 weeks later, Ethan stood in the completely renovated location number 47, watching contractors install the final piece of equipment, a time clock with biometric scanning and automatic overtime alerts. No more off-the-books shifts. No more ghost employees. The board meeting had lasted 4 hours. Ethan had presented everything: recordings, financial forensics, police reports, and testimony from Mia and 6 other employees Rick had coerced across 3 locations. The vote to keep number 47 open had been unanimous. The vote to implement company-wide reforms had been even faster. Rick was awaiting trial on 18 counts including tax evasion, coercion, assault, and racketeering. 2 other managers had been arrested. A third had fled the state but was caught within 72 hours. The criminal case was airtight. But Ethan's real work had been different, repairing the damage Rick had left behind. "Mr. Cole?" A voice interrupted his thoughts. Ethan turned to find Mia standing in the doorway, and he almost didn't recognize her. 3 weeks of rest, proper meals, and medical treatment had transformed her. The shadows under her eyes had faded. Her hand was healed. She stood straighter, carried herself differently. "Mia, you look human?" She smiled, a real smile this time. "Yeah. Turns out sleep and food actually matter." "Who knew?" Jamie rolled in behind her, grinning. "She's been sleeping 10 hours a day. I practically have to drag her out of bed. Doctor's orders," Mia said defensively, but she was laughing. Ethan had kept his promise. Both their salaries had continued during the investigation, along with full medical coverage. Jamie's specialist appointment had happened as scheduled, and the new medication was already showing results: improved mobility, reduced pain. The medical team was optimistic. "So," Mia said, looking around the renovated space. "You wanted to see me?" "I did." Ethan pulled out an envelope. "I have a job offer for you." Mia's smile faded slightly. "Mr. Cole, I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't go back to. Not that job." He handed her the envelope. "Open it." Inside was a contract and an ID badge. Mia read aloud. "Night Operations Lead, location number 47. Salary, $58,000 annually, plus benefits, plus performance bonuses." Her eyes went wide. This is triple what I was making. The position is new. I'm implementing it across all locations." Ethan gestured to the changes around them. "Every restaurant will have dedicated night security and operations oversight. Someone who ensures that what Rick did can never happen again. Someone who knows what to look for because they've lived it. You want me to be your watchdog? I want you to be my conscience," Ethan said quietly. "I built this company from one food truck, Mia. I told myself I'd never forget where I came from, that I'd always take care of my people. But I got comfortable. I stopped looking. I let the spreadsheets tell me everything was fine while people like you suffered." He met her eyes. "I need someone who won't let that happen. Someone who'll call me at 2 a.m. if something's wrong. Someone who gives a damn." Mia stared at the contract, then at Jamie, who nodded encouragingly. "There's more," Ethan continued. "I'm establishing an employee advocacy program. Anonymous hotline, third-party investigators, guaranteed protection for whistleblowers. And I'm funding a scholarship program for employees and their families. Jamie, if you're interested, there's a culinary management course starting next month. Full tuition covered." Jamie's mouth fell open. "You're serious?" "Completely. Patricia told me you're the best prep cook she's ever seen. That talent shouldn't be wasted." For a long moment either of them spoke. Then Mia carefully folded the contract and looked up at Ethan, tears in her eyes. "You didn't save the business," she said softly. "You saved us." "You saved yourselves," Ethan corrected. "You survived Rick's threats. You protected your brother. You documented evidence even when you didn't fully understand what you were seeing. All I did was have the power to make sure people listened." Mia wiped her eyes. "When do I start?" 2 weeks. After you've actually had a proper vacation." Ethan smiled. "There's a training program starting Monday: employee rights, labor law, crisis management. 8 other people are enrolled. All of them worked at the locations Rick corrupted. All of them are getting the same offer you are." "You're really doing this?" Mia said, wonder in her voice. "Actually changing things." "Trying to." Ethan looked around the restaurant, at the new equipment, the transparent scheduling system, The employee break room that actually had comfortable furniture and a stocked kitchen. I can't fix everything. But I can make sure that when someone like Rick tries this again, there's a system in place to stop them fast. 6 months later, location number 47 had become the highest-rated restaurant in the chain. Customer reviews praised the genuine care and happy staff. Employee retention was at 98%. And Mia's advocacy program had already identified and stopped 2 managers at other locations who'd been falsifying records. Ethan visited monthly, always unannounced, always in a suit this time. He'd learned his lesson. Transparency mattered more than surveillance. On his last visit, he found Mia training a new hire, showing them the proper procedures, the protection systems, the hotline number. Any questions? Mia asked the nervous teenager. Yeah, the kid said. Is it true the CEO actually worked here undercover? Mia glanced at Ethan, who was watching from across the dining room, and smiled. Yeah, she said. It's true. And it's the reason you're safe here. Remember that. The kid nodded, and Mia got back to work. Ethan walked out into the sunshine, his phone already buzzing with the next crisis, the next quarterly report, the next board meeting. But for the first time in 15 years, he felt like he was actually building something that mattered. Not just a business. A place where people could work without fear. And that, he thought, was worth more than any profit margin could ever measure.